Hey YouTube, this is Boysenberry. I just wanted to show you this project that I ended up putting together.
I call it the Hydrolic Pressure Manifold System. It incorporates two different interesting watering mechanisms. The first one, hydraulic pressure. The second one, a manifold system. The manifold process I get from rainwater collection. What I'm using it for is to bottom water feed my air pots to grow container vegetable plants. In order to make this method work, you have to make sure that the water basins maintain a certain level of water. Basically, hydraulic and air pressure will set the limit on the amount of water allowed into the basins, and the manifold system will distribute the water evenly. The cool thing about combining these two methods is that there's virtually no limit to the number of basins you can fill up. 42 to 420, it doesn't matter. First of all, I wanted to say I didn't invent these methods, and combining these methods is definitely not something new. I just wanted to show the simplicity of the hydraulic pressure manifold system and hopefully inspire and encourage those to make the system even better. I think it is important to leave as small footprint as we can, especially when it comes to gardening. Anyway, I was looking for a way to bottom feed my air pots and maintain a certain level of water which didn't require any electricity and required minimal maintenance. I just wanted to set it and forget it. Sometimes you can't water your plants on a daily basis without installing a timer. With this method, you can let gravity do the work and let the plants absorb water and nutrients when they need it. This was one of my inspirations for this project, a simple dog watering bowl. I think what everyone finds interesting is the fact that the water continuously does not evacuate the bulb. It turns out that the air pressure within the bulbous container holds the water in and maintains a certain amount of water level within the trough. When you empty out the reservoir, the water within the bulb refills the container. The only difference between the dog watering bowl and what you see before you is that I use tubes to determine the water level. The two ways you can determine the water level within a container with this method is changing the height of the container tube or raising or lowering the basins. So let me show you how this works. Just as in the dog watering bowl, the system must be closed. Any air or water leaks will disable this process, so I used washers, grommets, silicone, and hot glue to make sure the system is sealed. Also, my other goal was to put this together in the most inexpensive fashion. So I guess I'll start off with a big water bottle. Not that you can't use a Sparklets bottle, but I chose a 5-gallon water bottle from Walmart. $7 because it had a screw-on lid which could close the system. I've also seen them over at Smart & Final for $9. The other thing that I got from Walmart was the Brewcraft bottling spigot, which I installed to the lid. It had a tightening nut with a washer to make it airtight, so it was perfect. That was another $6. I liked the fact that it had an on-off valve to be able to control the airflow. The other on-off valve that I purchased controlled the water flow into the receiving basin. It was attached to the bulkhead. What you're looking at is a modified half-inch bulkhead. I used a measuring caliper to determine the size of the hole I needed to drill for the bulkhead. The next thing I had was this thing called a check valve. The check valve limits the water flow in only one direction. I learned to make one with a small little marble watching a YouTube video. Since the system is closed, there is a chance for the water to back up into your water bottle. Oh, and the reason why I ended up making a check valve is because the professional ones, at least the ones that I looked at, took a lot of pressure in order to open up the valve. The rest of the apparatus is attached to this thing called a Barb. The Barb holds the vinyl hose, and the end of the hose is put at the bottom of the receiving container. I used a small volcanic rock to hold the end of the hose down. I don't think you need anything more complicated. So there you have it, a gravity bottom water feeding system which is scalable. I think it's important to be able to add more containers as you grow with your cultivation activities. So the receiving basin will begin to fill up with water once the water level falls below the desired height. Since the water level is evenly distributed amongst the basins, as the water evaporates, as it is absorbed by the soil, as the water is used by the plant, the water level decreases. Once it goes below the desired water level, air infiltrates the water level hose and the water is released from the water bottle. This is what it sounds like. Once the water level cuts off the airflow into the water level hose, the water flow into the receiving basins will stop and will then be evenly distributed amongst the other water basins. How cool is that? Notice that the water level hose will reveal the amount of water still remaining in the water bottle. Every watering method has their upsides and downsides, so I wanted to go over a few tips, tricks, and challenges. First of all, the open water basins are subject to debris. I find wind can blow leaves into the basins. I also find grass clippings, small insects, etc. Although I have the soil originally thrown into a non-woven fabric bag from the dollar store, before I put it into a 5-gallon air pot, it is possible that the bag could tear and there could be a small amount of soil in the basin. The debris could potentially clog up the leveling distribution tubes. I went over to Harbor Freight to pick up a grommet assortment in order to install the leveling tubes. $4. I'm a big fan of hot glue, but if they leak, and sometimes they do, I recommend that you do not use hot glue in order to seal it. Hot glue and water do not mix. Get yourself some silicone, about $6. I recommend that you put the plant containers in the basins before you fill them up with water, then fill them up with enough water that you don't have to drain the initial water bottle too much. In one of the basins, you should drill an overflow hole. This is so that if it rains a lot, you don't have to worry about drowning your plants. The only other thing I recommend is that you place a drainage valve onto one of your basins just at the bottom so that you could drain the water. Just make sure that it's accessible. I just use silicone to seal the opening of a plastic water bottle. Since you're dealing with biological entities and organic materials, it's okay to flush the system every week or two. And I think that's it. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to leave them inside the comment section. I think the air pots and the bottom feeding or wicking method are incredible. If you haven't looked into it, you probably should. I'll go over how to do this in a later video and show you the results. Just keep in mind that depending on what you're growing, the 5-gallon container buckets may not be big enough. The bigger plants will need a bigger container. Sometimes 16 inches of root growing depth might not be enough for your plant. Anyway, happy growing. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you guys next time.